Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. The cabins belonging to these folks, they have really filled up for the next 2 months. Thank you, by the way. But they do have a new cabin available. Pay attention. It is right off the main drag in Gatlinburg. This is as close to the downtown Gatlinburg as you can get and still be off the main drag. It's a cabin called City Bear. You can search it, City Bear. Go to their website. You can look for 4-bedroom cabins and check it out. And man, it is set up. It is nice. All the entertainment system, the fireplace, they got it. It's sweet. Check them out. And they also have great during the week rentals that are some still available right now during the holidays. ParksideCabinRentals.com. Check out. You better do it in a hurry because it won't last long. City Bear. See if you can check out that cabin and get that in the holiday season. ParksideCabinRentals.com. All right, we welcome in the final two members of today's panel. VFL Daniel Hood, VFL Sterling Hinton. Sterling, I must say, we have guys who are at the games. We have guys who are in the press box. We have guys on the field. You are on the field.
Yeah.
I watch it on the big screen so I could sit there and kind of rewind it and make sure what happens on replays and that kind of stuff. Nice job, because listening to the games now where I am, it's like an NFL stadium in there. And I know that there are people who are a little older than me that wouldn't like that. It sounds impressive. Gary Danielson and who was it? Brad Nessler? Who's there? Yeah, I guess it was Nessler. They were commenting yesterday on how the music in Neyland Stadium goes right up until the opponent gets up there the line. I thought, yeah, there you go, Sterling. Get the can out of there.
Wait till they touch the ball.
Anyway, congratulations on the job you're doing. I've heard so many good comments about that.
Thank you. It means a lot to us.
Let's take a look at Hendon Hooker's numbers from yesterday. 24 of 37, 244 yards passing, 6.5 yards per attempt. That's not a great number. 1 touchdown, 1 interception that he sailed. Only 7 yards rushing because he was sacked a number of times. Did have a fumble later in that game. Not horrible numbers considering who he was going up against, but certainly not what we're used to seeing from Hendon Hooker and not what you're going to need if you're going to have a chance against Georgia. Here's what Josh Heupel said after the game, and I credit the Knoxville News Sentinel and Mike Wilson here because I love being able just to steal a quote from the Sentinel and not have to type it up. According to Mike Wilson talking to Heupel, he said that Hooker might have been juiced up by the matchup or was in the incorrect body position as he missed some downfield throws. Heupel also pointed to Georgia's defensive front affecting Hooker, whether the pressure was real or he was feeling the rush from previous plays. The interception was that, and there were a couple of other throws that sailed on him. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think the issue was? The juiced up factor is interesting because he wasn't too juiced up at Florida or at Alabama. The pass rush getting to him, Tennessee has given up more sacks than anybody in the SEC, so you'd think he'd be used to running for his life. Injuries? Was it coverage against his what do you think the issue was, guys, with Hendon Hooker?
Well,
let's start with the quarterback.
I'll go. I just shared with the guys offset. I always thought Hendon had a strong arm, but yesterday was the hardest I've seen him throwing the ball in the game. He was getting those balls in tight windows. And, he had to be juiced up to do that. And, let's not forget, that's the number 1 team in the country. So things change. Those guys coming at him are bigger and faster. And when he got hit, which he did get hit, those hits were a little bit harder.
There you go.
And so, and a couple of times I noticed and I shared prior to the show, his body was out of position. But
explain that to folks about how a pass sails. What causes that to happen?
Usually when a pass sails, is when the quarterback oversteps to throw. And Hendon has a real compact throwing motion. A couple of times he took an extra step trying to get that extra oomph on the ball, and it sailed on him. It happens. He's human, and he'll get better from it. But it's up to bad mechanics in his situation, unfortunately, does not give us great results. Hendon's okay. He went up against the number 1 team in the nation yesterday. He's going to be out of position a few times trying to win a game for his team. And he was out there giving all he had.
Daniel, I think you can make a case that his numbers against Georgia's defense were, even though they weren't up to snuff for what we're used to seeing from him, they're better than most people who go against Georgia's defense, ironically. You're also just going to have a bad day eventually. He hasn't really had one this year. I've seen worse.
Way worse.
But at the same time, Daniel, you are so dependent on him that when he just has an average or slightly below average day, it carries more weight.
Yeah, and I think the schedule that you've had of 3 really tough games in a row and taking those big hits back to back to back, one of the things that goes is you're trying to use your mind to overcome how your body feels from getting beat up in that situation. You're going to have these little technique mishaps. I know Marlon and I, when we played, we had that Georgia game where we fumbled through the back of the end zone. And then it was just like that next week, we got a week off to get back to our basic technique of just focusing on the little details. He's not been able to have that. He's been playing a ton of snaps, he's playing a lot faster than we were ever playing. And so when you look at those details, you look at your body hurting, you're just trying to use your mind to overcome it. And sometimes you can't. And I think that happened to him yesterday.
As guys who like to hit the quarterback, talk to me about just getting a guy sped up a little or a little antsy with the number of hits. As Daniel said, Alabama, Kentucky got to him a few times, 5 times. Georgia. How does that have a cumulative effect?
They didn't get to him like this group got to him last night because, what he felt too was not just when he got hit, but the whole collapsing of the pocket was all around him. A couple of those games he got sacked by a guy, but no one else was around him on this side. So I had a way to escape. He was feeling that whole thing go down on top of him, and he was getting lit up halfway through his throwing motion, hitting his shoulder a couple times. And that's where a lot of guys have been taught now, because you can't take the kill shot anymore. What they do is when you move your arm out here, they take their fist and they hit your shoulder as hard as they can, because when a shoulder tries to roll forward, all of a sudden it hurts a lot more. Yeah. And that's another reason you start sailing balls, because your shoulder and falling through is a lot sore. So that's what that group was doing to him. They were attacking his shoulder, they're attacking the ball, and that whole group was collapsing on top of him. I see why the guy didn't have a good game. Look, Patrick Mahomes last year against Buccaneers, he did look kind of human, and it's because that pressure got to him. That's what happens when you have that kind of pass rush on a quarterback.
I tell you this, when I was sitting there watching the game and I'm talking to some of the guys that's around, my biggest thing was like when Bennett was taking off, it's like, man, we got to hit him. Or if he's throwing the ball, follow through, let's hit him. And that's what happened to Hooker yesterday. Pocket was collapsing. But at the same time, as a defensive lineman, the more I can hit the quarterback, the more I can kind of make him speed up his throwing process or get him a little bit off balance. And that's what was happening yesterday. And like I told you in the earlier segment, it was only a matter of time, just me watching the game, that their guys was going to start to get there and put hits on them. They just had to get adjusted to our tempo. Once that happened, hey, the bigger, stronger guy, the more physical guy is going to win that battle, and that's what happened yesterday with Hooker. They sped him up with the amount of hits he took.
And I want to piggyback with my defensive lineman hurting quarterbacks. The analogies, it works. It works. But and I thought we had a great example of that down in the end zone, in the red zone, where there was a play when Jacob Warren was coming open in the end zone for a touchdown. And you saw how nice and relaxed that hitting through the ball. Well, that same amount of energy that he's been programming, body memory and muscle memory has been thrown to make a completion, because of the soreness, it came up short and was almost picked off. We're human out there. And when those big collisions happen from these guys, which I always try to avoid.
And I'll tell you this, he took some ugly hits too. You can see him kind of dragging and get off the ground a little bit. The way he was falling was in like unorthodox positions. You saw the offensive lineman kind of have to grab him a couple times and get up. That's what happens when big people hit you. It takes a toll on your body.
We got to catch a break, but give me this in 15 seconds. I think I know everybody's answer. Did anybody have a problem with 7 minutes to go? They take Hooker out, they put Milton in.
No. You weren't going to win it. Get another guy in there. He'd take it too many shots at that point.
And also you're trying to rebuild Milton's confidence from the last couple of times he's been in. It hadn't worked, so I had no problem with that.
My concern was, why was Georgia still playing their ones?
And here's the thing. If they'd had a couple of guys get hurt, really hurt, Kirby Smart would be answering for that today. Yeah. But let's talk about injuries next, and let's talk about adjusting to Tennessee's tempo and how you might slow that tempo down, how teams are slowing that tempo down. We'll talk about the injury factor versus Heupel's offense. Come on back on the Sports Source.